welcome to another episode of Beautiful Subconscious. Today, we are thrilled to introduce a special guest who brings an incredible wealth of knowledge and experience in relationship coaching. With 9 years of rigorous study, including a social work degree, specialising in therapy and domestic and family violence, Beck Thompson transitioned into coaching with a focus on dating and relationships. Boasting 3 coaching certificates and a decade of hands-on experience, she offers expert guidance and unwavering support. Beck's profound understanding of relationships stems from extensive training in therapy and coaching, coupled with 15 years of personal and professional development. Through her Amazon #1 best-selling book, The Conscious You, and her insightful podcast, The Relationship Circle, she shares invaluable knowledge and practical tools for personal growth and enhancing relationship skills. And as a relationship coach of our Total Life Transformation Program, Beck plays a pivotal role in helping clients succeed across one of our 4 key pillars of our program, which includes relationships, health, career, and money. Hello, my love.
Hello. Thank you for having me. You can take a breath now.
Yeah, I know. That was such a cool long intro. I wrote it myself. Cool. Thank you for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. Can you let the listeners know, where are you based?
Yeah, I'm down the south coast of New South Wales in a little town called Batemans Bay.
Oh, cute. How's it going over there today in Batemans Bay?
It's freezing. It's sunny, but it's beautiful. We're 4 hours south of Sydney, so we're towards Melbourne, which is a bit colder. But the sun is out and it's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I love. What do people in Batemans Bay do?
A holiday. It's a very holiday town. Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. Every day's a holiday. I love
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah. I live right next to the beach, so it's beautiful.
Oh, that sounds stunning. That sounds beautiful. Well, I'm so glad to have you on here. Before we kickstart this, as a tradition for the Beautiful Subconscious, I like to pull a little affirmation card. So you just let me know when to stop and we'll just see what we pull together.
All right. You can stop.
Okay. All right. We have got, I am bigger than my fears and I turn my fear into courage. Cool. Well, I love that. And I think in terms of what we're talking about today, which is relationships, and obviously the saying goes, and Tony Robbins referred to this, the quality of our life depends on the quality of our relationships. And sometimes it can be the most scariest place to be is in a relationship for so many reasons. So I think having the courage to show up in a relationship and really give your all and give your heart is definitely a thing that we all need to cultivate. And it can be really scary, but we deserve to be bigger than the fears of not, showing up. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. How relevant.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so. It always works out that way. Cool. So can you give us an insight on how you became a relationship coach and you embarked on this work?
Yeah, I mean, so you touched on it a little bit in my intro, but my work in domestic and family violence and in therapy meant that I suppose, working on one side. So I was mainly working with women who were experiencing this. And I got a little bit burnt out doing that work. And whilst I was doing that work, I also trained in coaching. And coaching for me offered something that was more practical, more light. I saw better results. And I actually didn't make this connection until very recently that before I was working on protecting women from not being in these relationships from the standpoint of them having experienced it and being out of domestic violence, if that makes sense. And now I feel like I'm doing preventative work with stopping women from getting into it in terms of working with them on self-worth and confidence and what they believe that they're worthy of in relationships and how they can get that and boundaries, etc. And
absolutely.
My work with couples started at the very beginning of this work because I just am so interested in how humans work and how they work together. And I just love how 2 individuals can come together and be so different. And that can be what the magic of what makes a relationship work really well and really beautifully. But it can also be what can tear you apart if you don't recognize how to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many ways that we can work and grow individually and feel really like, empowered and inspired and enlightened. But until you get into a relationship, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
this is where I'm seeing sides of myself that I might not always like, or I'm not ready to. And so it can be really confronting and kind of can feel a little bit deflating in a way, if you choose to see it that way, when you're believe that you've done all this work. And don't get me wrong, I feel like we all have, and it's not like it doesn't work, but I think it just rapidly accelerates when you're in a relationship and people can, see all sides of you and hold you accountable.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. It's really like, because that's when, people, you've got a mirror up against you, right? So that's
yeah,
when you can see things that weren't there before. Like
yeah,
I always encourage people when they're ready and they feel like they're at a good place to start dating, to get out there, because that's when you're going to see the patterns more clearly, the triggers, like everything's going to come up for you. So, so
absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. Oh, so that's a good question. Then how do you know if you're ready to start dating?
Yeah, I think that people are usually ready to start dating before they think they're ready. I'm usually telling them to get out there. I think
Yeah.
if your self-worth is at a level where you know what you deserve and what you're worthy of, and you can put that into place, then absolutely go out there. I think with support. So I
Mm.
think what I often see a lot of people do, if they're not doing the work, is they go, I'm ready to date, and then they jump on the dating app and they get ready, and then they burn out because they
Mm-hmm,
keep getting these
mm-hmm.
experiences of what they're not looking for. And you have to do the work before, one, to know what you're looking for, know what your values are, and know
Yeah.
like what you're going to accept and not accept. What are your boundaries? Because otherwise you just get into experiences and dates that are the same. Like, this is the
Yes.
most common thing I hear over and over again. I'm attracting the
Mm.
same man here and he just looks different name, same guy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Oh, it's like making me think in so many different ways, because I can relate to conversations that I have with women and ladies, and they're getting back into the dating scene, and, they're becoming more aware of themselves. They're becoming more aware of what they allowed in past relationships. And they're like, not more, no more of that. I'm not going down that line again. And that's a sense of like, cool, I'm not going to stand for that. And they have that awareness. And so then they go out and start dating, and they have these connections with people, and it's I think where they might find a challenge, or what I've witnessed, is when there is an exchange of, I don't know, conflict or different points of opinions, and people showing up in their different ways of reacting. It can be almost like amplified in their mind, because they're like, oh my God, am I going back to that? Like that,
Yes.
old scenario. And so they're probably, like, in my opinion, it looks like that they are seeing it through a filter and really ramping it up to be
Yep.
maybe worse than what it is. So in those circumstances,
Yep.
what do you say to women or men?
Yeah, I literally just spoke about this last night with a client, because they can be in one end of the spectrum, right? And so they're putting up with all this stuff. And then quite often what happens is they go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and they've got all these walls up instead of boundary, and they've got all this armor on, and no one can get in, no one's going to hurt me, but therefore no one can even get in there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's almost like, how can you come back to the middle? You can be aware of what is happening, but you just need to like take it slowly and take time to reflect, and just to be aware of like, have I been triggered? Is this reminding me of something in the past? Is that what's really going on? Like, and then I say, speak to someone who's you can reflect with. Friends, like, I love you to speak to friends, but they're not always a blank slate, right? They have their own baggage that they bring to the table when they talk about that, and they just want the best for you and they care for you, but that often means that they won't tell you the hard information, or yeah. So I just
It is a
encourage you to
fine
speak to a
line.
professional in terms of like getting support around getting through those, and just reflecting on like, is it what's happening? Is it what's happened in the past? Is that repeating itself? Or like, am I just hypersensitive to this
Totally.
stuff because of what's happened in the past?
Yeah, right. So it's that process of, finding that dynamic balance of, is this hypersensitivity? Am I, really feeling like I'm drawing upon the past and projecting this forward and being like, no, I'm not even going to let you get anywhere close to what I had to put up with in the past. Or is it just now ironing out like, hey, this person, isn't coming from the way that you once maybe thought your past relationships did. So I'm trying to navigate would be, I guess you never know until you experience it though, right? And just having those points of references. And it's always just going to be a process of gaining the work experience, so to speak, out there to really know.
Totally. And that's why that work on like clearing the subconscious stuff and the triggers is so important, because otherwise it does repeat itself. Like it's not going to, I said this to someone last night. They said, what do you think about affirmations? And I was like, I have such mixed feelings about affirmations. And if you just read them and you don't do any inner work, you're wasting your time, because it's just living in the level of your head and you're conscious, and it's not doing anything,
Exactly.
Well, that's to do that work.
Absolutely. It's like it almost gets just down to your head, and like in that mental intellectual, I can conceptualize like, I want to be in a really loving relationship and connected relationship, but your whole body is still in like a survival response of no one's getting in, or I'm going to disassociate or fly the moment that we have an argument. So it's just like that embodiment. Like we say the word embodiment, but you actually got to be able to be in your body to really feel that. So it's like landing really, really deep and true for a lot of my clients right now.
Yes.
So I love that. So when you're working with couples, say, what are the common things you work on with them?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's interesting what you just spoke about that in terms of like fleeing when the first argument happened, because we often work on conflict, because you're not taught how to do relationships. You're not taught how to do communication or conflict. And we learn from our parents. So many of us, or whoever brought us up, are just repeating these same patterns and not questioning, do I want to do it that way? Is that like, could I do better in that situation? And so conflict is just, and communication, I just reckon the majority of the population are quite rubbish at. So that's a lot of the stuff that I work with people on. And I think so much stuff stems from that, because intimacy stems from that, like connection stems from that, just building a relationship up. Sometimes I'm working with couples where they don't have anything there, and we're working on how do we build this from the ground up again, which is tricky but not impossible. But also you just need to have skills. Like I'm so often just teaching skills around like, this is how you communicate, this is how you do conflict well, and it's conflict is fantastic if it's done productively. If it's not disrespectful, that's what makes change in a relationship. So I just like people don't love anger. Anger isn't the problem. It's the behavior that comes from the anger that's the problem. So conflict is amazing if it's done in a really respectful way and you have movement that happens from it.
I love that. So those clients and couples that come on in, because I think, again, you can understand it and you can be like, all right, so next time that we have a conflict, let's sit down, let's talk about it. And so before it happens, you can be like, cool, all right, that's what we'll do. But then it happens and then you're just like, I can't access that, that logical, that really empathetic understanding because I just want to, and it defaults back. So what happened? What do you suggest and what do you say when that happens?
Yeah, take space always. Like I think, in that moment, their brain's going to fly and they're in that fight or flight and you're never going to get anywhere. So like the best thing you can do is remove yourself from the space, I'd say physically, and go and have a few breaths and get your body back and your brain back online, because it's just you're not there to be able to do the work. And so quite often in the beginning, it's like we've got the skills, but even when I teach conflict repair. So say we have a conflict, I prefer the repair to go better than the conflict. So if the repair's gone rubbish and the next day you revisit it and you talk about I statements. So like, I felt disrespected when you called me a bitch, and sorry if that's swearing. And, what I need from you is this. And so in that moment, sometimes in the repair, it's easy for our bodies again to become escalated. So again, sometimes this process can take forever because I'm going, have a break, revisit it when you're ready. And the caveat always is when you're both ready to revisit it, you both have to be willing to hear the other person. If you're not in a space where you can hear the other person, forget it, take more space. And so it's learning. Your body and your brain are learning new skills and new techniques of how to be in a relationship and how to converse. And
oh, this is so interesting. I mean, because I know me personally, I didn't have a great example of relationships growing up. My mum and dad, my dad was always working overseas. And so he was physically not present. Like you could call him any time of the day and he would generally answer. So you knew he was there, but physically, like them together. And honestly, I think when they finally said that they were ready to separate, we were like, thank God. Just holding it and it's kids saying that. So clearly that's, definitely has had an impact on me, but just learning the skills of how couples, conflict resolute and how they consider one another. It can really feel like you're starting from Groundhog Day. Well, starting from square one, and it can be like Groundhog Day, in my opinion.
Totally. And also like, remember that you're not dating your twin, or you're not married to your twin. You're with a person who was raised again. So they've had a whole other experience of life like you have. Yeah. And like, this is so funny. I've been with my husband for, I don't know, 20 something years. And the other day, maybe the other month, it was the first time we'd ever discussed, how did you do dinner at your house when you're a kid? Because I noticed that sitting around the dinner table, now that we have a 4-year-old, I don't know why I never noticed this before, but I think it's more relevant now that we have a kid. He wants silence at the dinner table, and I want to talk about our day. So they're like the complete opposite things, because he was raised by a dad who watched the news at dinner time, and no kids spoke. It was not allowed for the kids to speak. And at my table, that was the day where everybody spoke, and it was so loud, and everyone spoke about their day, and it was a chance for us to connect as a family. So such opposite views. So we had to be like, well, what are we going to create in this family? Because we can't stick to either of them. That won't work if we do silence or talk too much, because both of us are going to get frustrated. So even just the simple, like that simple discussion around like, how were you raised around the dinner table? Like we hadn't even spoken about that. So you got to remember that your partner comes from such a different lens of the world and different view of the world. And if you can have, the best thing you will ever do for your relationship and for your life is to just have a curiosity mindset around like, what did that look like for you? Like, I wasn't judging my husband in that moment. I wasn't judging his father. I was like, this is so interesting that it was so different. Like, wow, how can we make it work now?
Yes. And then what you said is what I loved, is just like, okay, what are we going to create for our family? Because one or the other, it's not going to fit for the other person necessarily. So what are we now consciously going to choose to design for our family at the dinner table? And it just like, even just, things like negotiating and like negotiating how you're going to eat at the dinner table isn't anything that anyone really would think a thought for most of the time. Unless you are choosing to live more consciously, which I think we all deserve to. But I think, so that alone is its own conversation and willingness to understand and communication, let alone the more triggering conversations and meeting in the middle that we often focus on a little more or feel more drawn to bring our attention to because they seem bigger and more important.
Totally. But it's the small things. And like, I can tell you, this is why majority of the couples come to me, because one person wants the spoon in the dishwasher and the other person's leaving it next to the sink and not putting in the dishwasher. Like, it's the little things that if we don't talk about them, they're just one person sitting there going, oh, I'm so annoyed that he didn't do it. And the other person's like, has no comprehension that why it's important to the other person. That was the thing. Like, we never spoke about it.
Yeah. And it just, then they blow up in something else. And it's like, it wasn't actually really about that. It was about the spoon underneath.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, so good. It's so comical because people are so funny. Couples are so funny.
I know. It's great.
we're just such complex beings, and we're just all hilarious at the end of the day, but it's hard work. It's hard work. You're like,
Oh, and as you know from the work that you do, right, we're all just like 0 to 7-year-olds walking around acting as though we're adults. Like, we're all just walking around in our subconscious, just acting out life. So.
Just acting out life, trying to navigate. Exactly. I love that. So when people coming into our programs and they are doing it on their own, they're just like, I just want to dedicate these 6 months to me, work on myself, but they are in a relationship. How would you navigate that with them?
Yeah, it's honestly the same as the work that I do with couples, because it's the individual that I focus on. So I will never sit in a dynamic with a couple where they're blaming each other and I'm siding with one of them. Like, I'm always like, what can you do differently? So it's just about like, what can you do differently in this situation? Your partner's responding in that way. Well, how can you shift the dynamic? Because one person changing anything shifts the dynamic. You don't actually need both of you to shift it. And you will probably notice, unless you're in a toxic relationship, that when you start to do something, I notice it's such a great experiment. So like, when I start to eat healthier in my relationship, my husband starts to eat healthier. When or vice versa, someone will start something, the other one will follow. Like, we mirror each other really well in relationship. So if you just experiment with that, you can get stuff happening. But yeah, it's all about the individual work that you do yourself. And, you know, relationships are relationships. So how you do the one at home is how you do it at work, how you do it with your family, how you do it with friends. So they're all useful skills.
Oh, I love this so much. And it just makes me even more excited for our program because Izzy, you know, as you know, our health coach, we talk about this in terms of health and how when someone's on that health journey, hopefully your partner will jump on board that, or if they're not feeling secure in themselves or for whatever reason, they may start to sabotage that person. And, you know, if they don't have I guess, secure relationship enough to be individuals and not be as like, because that's a sign of codependency, would you say, in terms of if someone's like feeling like someone's growing further away, they're going to try bring them down a little bit into where they're familiar.
And just their own self-worth, right? Because it's why people don't like when you put boundaries in place when they haven't been there before. They're like, hang on,
wait,
you're changing things. I don't like this.
Yeah, exactly. So to have your insight as well as getting everyone's health in order, as well as and like when you were speaking before and how you're saying like that neutral space that you keep, and it's just like I'm not either one or the other. It's just like how can you both show up better for each other? I love that. And I know the work that I do hand in hand with it. It's, you know, in our sessions with clients, it's just like everything at the end of the day, when we strip back the personalities, when we strip back the relationships, when we strip back everything is just energy. And these are just emotions. So it's like, feel free to say, you know, my wife, Sally, was, you know, she was a bitch the other day, and maybe he had that person or the other, or vice versa, but maybe that person has always kept that in because it didn't feel like the right thing to say. It's like, cool. Like this is a judgment-free space. We know this isn't really necessarily about Sally, so to speak. It's just about what you're harboring and what you're holding and what you're not feeling able to express. So to be able to hold a container where they can just up and release it and let it go and know that, hey, it's fine. It's never about the other person and everyone's just doing the best that they can. Use this space to get all those things out that you don't feel comfortable in generally saying in the outside world, because there's always, you know, preconceptions and judgments on behaving particular ways and using particular words or evoking different emotions. And it's like with that inside of that liberation of just freeing all those things that they harbored with your expertise of being like, all right, cool. So I can see both sides. Here's an insight for that. What else could we do better? Is going to just be such a really comprehensive, like impactful process for them. And I'm just really excited.
Yeah. I'm really excited too.
It's going to be epic. And so what about then also, I'm just picturing like the ladies that come in and the ladies that the clients that I have, and they have been in like long-term relationships. And we may have touched on this already, but the women who may be a bit more in a mature age space and they are looking for that next relationship. They might have been in one for a bunch of years or decades and settled in that from a younger age. And now they're like, all right, I know who I am, so to speak. This is what I want. What can they expect from you with that?
Yeah, this is my favorite, I reckon. Not that I have a favorite, everyone. I love you all. But even when they don't know what they want, like I actually quite often have women that come to me that have been in long-term relationships. Dating looks very different to what it did when they met their partner. Even take 10 years. If you're out of a 10-year relationship, dating looks very different in 10 years. But what hasn't changed is the work, like you knowing who you are and what you want. And sometimes I have women come to me where they don't know what that is. And so in the start, that's just almost like a giant experiment around like, let's rediscover who you are. This is fun. Like you get the opportunity now to like make life look like what you want it to look like. So the work with them is like, let's get really clear on who you are and what you want and what your values are. Then when you start dating, let's see the type of relationships that you're bringing in and what kind of work we need to do internally to change what you're attracting. And also just, I'm super practical in terms of like, how do we set the boundaries? How do we say no? How do we say yes? Like, how do you let someone, like last night I did this masterclass and I was talking about like, how do you tell someone that you don't want to see them again? Like, I want you to be able to know how to have the language rather than entertaining 10 dates with them if you knew on the first one that you didn't want to see them again.
So what do you say? What's the recommended way?
It's so simple in terms of like, you know, thanks for your time. I didn't see a connection with us. I wish you all the best. You know, like you don't the clearer and simpler you are, like the less words, the better, because otherwise people start to over-explain themselves. And that's not in high self-worth. If you're going, I really thought you were lovely, but I'm just not really there, blah, blah, blah. And then they make it about themselves. It's just messy. It's so clear.
The over-justification still is a sign of like, there's a smidge of healing there that we still got to do.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But
it's fun. Get excited. If you are women in that space, then get excited, because this is like, I love, the older women get, I feel, the more powerful they get in terms of like, no, this is my life now. And I don't know what anyone thinks, and like, how cool, what a cool, powerful space to be in.
Exactly. That it's the most inspiring and the most just elevating spaces to be in, when women are just claiming like their life back. And in the most loving, self-loving way. It's just like, all right, yes, this is it now. I'm going to press go, and I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to have the courage, and what our card said, to just, overcome my fears and just see what happens. Like, the holding back or the settling or the self-minimizing or not really knowing myself, that took me to a certain point, and now I didn't give me what I'm seeking for now. So now I'm just going all in. So I just love. Can
I tell you
that.
a really quick story? Yeah. I just had a client meeting yesterday, and we started working together, I don't know, maybe a year ago. And she wrote out, so she's done a lot of work on herself, and she's 50 something. So had a long marriage. Her kids are grown up, blah, blah, blah. She wrote out the list of what she wanted in a partner, but she wrote it in a beautiful way, which was like, I wake up and we're getting on a plane together. So specifically the two things that she remembered was that they were getting on a jet plane together, and that she was going to be on a boat with him in this crystal blue water. And put it away, didn't think about it. And she's just started dating this guy, and they're about to go on a plane together on his boat up to the Whitsundays in the blue water. Like, it's just wild how real her, like, what she wanted came true, because she lived a lot in anxiety. So once she cleared that anxiety and worked through it, and like the blocks are on what she thought she was worth. Like, it's real. She got it. And it's like, it's happening in real time. Like, it's next month they do it. So cool.
Crystal clear vision that she had and manifested.
So
what?
Yeah.
I love that. And it's true. And it's like, it's so real. It's like that stuff happens. And I think it's so easy to believe that's going to happen to someone else, but it doesn't fit you. But it's not, like, it's available to us all, and we just,
Absolutely. And she's like such a perfect example for me of someone who is just like getting into her career and getting into like her power as a woman. She's mentoring people. She's doing so incredibly well in her corporate career. Like, it's like what you could imagine, I don't know, 20-year-olds are out there doing, but she's even more powerful because she's got the wisdom there.
She's got the wisdom, and she's just like, I've got the backing, like the self-intuition now, like backing myself with that wisdom. So cool. Oh, I love that. Well, I could just talk all day. And do you know what? I actually had a thought, because, relationships to me, I love them so much. I was married. I'm separated now. I've been separated for about 4 or 5 years. Me and my kid's dad, so my ex-husband, we're such good friends. Like, we are really, really good friends. We honor the family dynamic that we have and the friendship that we have. And it's one of the things I'm really, really, really proud of. I think what we've done and what we're able to maintain, and how we show up for the kids and still have that united front. And I can talk to him, like, it's a really, really loving, respectful relationship that I'm super, super, super proud of. And I do believe it's because of doing the work. And I do believe it's, doing, like, clearing out the, subconscious stuff and the past unresolved generational things that we inherit from our childhood, and vice versa. So I think it's just so powerful to be able to be in a more neutral space and compassionate space for these people that, still are really important to you. But I think, and I'm in a relationship now too, and I would love to be able to, like, us to get on and do a live session with you.
It's going to be so cool.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Yikes. I'm going to be like,
watch out. I don't know if you want to do that.
Be careful what you wish for, because we were speaking of air, and Beck's like, she can see through the BS, which is what we're all about. Like, BS is like my sort of tagline almost, in beautiful subconscious. And yes, see the BS in that, and then also see the BS is in the beautiful subconscious. But I love, the directness that you hold, because people need that, like that accountability and being like, all right, cool. You could be playing smokes and mirrors all day long to yourself, and you won't get anywhere. And, I'm not going to allow that for you, not under my watch.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want change for you guys.
Yeah. Everyone deserves that. So I think that'd be good. Cool. All right. Well, let's pin that for a later date. Yes. All right. That sounds great. Cool, my love. Well, thank you for the chat today. I am so excited that we have found each other. We are creating such massive change for the people that come through our program. I'm really, really grateful for the work that you do and the people that you serve and being able to, do aligned work together. So thank you. I really appreciate you.
Oh, right back at you. Thank you.
Thanks, hon. And so for those that are keen to learn more about our program, it's the Total Life Transformation Program. It's 6 months. It's 5 specialists. We exclusively give you one-to-one support. So this is where we feel like there is a gap in the market where people are just wanting to be privately taken care of, find that support, understand where they're at in their own lives, what they might not be seeing, what's happening with these recycling sort of looping patterns that they're in. And we will just be your dream team in your corner to not only clear your subconscious blocks, but to give you the evidence-based strategies in your relationships, in your health, in your career, in your money. And so when we believe, like when you nail those pillars, the rest of your life is just going to be so fulfilling, so exhilarating, and the life that you've always dreamed to live. So if you're wanting to learn more about our program, please hit the show notes. We have our link there where you can hit the waitlist and jump on board, because we truly believe subconscious mastery and individual expert strategies is the way to go. It's the science and the soul that we all are. So we are really excited. So with that said, thank you again, Beck. I can't wait to continue on with you. And next time I see you, let's do a little live.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Let us know what you think. We would love to get you sharing this in and around to the people that you believe that this would benefit. So hit us with a DM. Let us know your thoughts. And thank you for your ears today. Until next week, take care of you. Bye. Guys, if you're ready to get to the bottom of your crippling self-doubt and finally resolve it from its root source, or if you're feeling like your career isn't hitting the mark and you're questioning where life's heading, if you crave relief from physical pain and just need some real answers, and if you're ready to flip your financial script and rewrite your money story, not only through your subconscious, but with professional practical tools, then jump on board our waitlist now. This 6-month program is breaking new ground in blending subconscious mastery and expert strategy for your success. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on this transformational journey. We are diving deep into those unconscious barriers, and with a dedicated team, we are focusing on your health, your wealth, your relationships, and your career. So hit the show notes, click apply, jump on the waitlist, because this is the way to pave your path to true empowerment. I can't wait.
Audience exclusive.